start and don't forget. Fantastic. And I'm gonna start sharing my screen so that people know where are they arriving? What are we going to talk about today? Okay. Okay, I think we should be good to go. Good. Well, welcome everyone. So today we are going to be having a wonderful conversation with my friends here, with the amazing speakers that are joining me today. We are going to talk about AI and super admins, frenemies, friends, enemies. What is it? And what is the future of our role, right? But first, I need to try to move the slide. First, I want to introduce my fellows here that are going to be having this wonderful discussion with me today. So I'm Lucy, and I want to introduce Erin Wiggers, our amazing HubSpot specialist. Hi, Erin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Happy to be here with you too. We have amazing Sarah Lane Horn, our fairy, HubSpot fairy. Hi, Sarah.
Thanks, Lucy. Excited to talk about this.
Happy to have you here too. And we have Marty, my co-keeper in crime. And I like to call him our tech wizard.
Hi everyone, a bit of a techie myself, so let's talk some fun stuff today.
Okay, guys, so I invited you today to discuss together how is AI changing, let's just say, our roles. So just for people to know, there are more than 73 AI features already running in HubSpot, and this keeps going up and up. For everyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about or where this comes from, you can go behind HubSpotAI.com and you will find all of the current AI features in HubSpot. And I keep having problems trying to change the slide. And I wanted to highlight this that I discovered especially these days, that is an AI-powered data model recommendations is in development, it's not still a beta, and I think this is starting to change the admin's job, especially when you're starting with a new portal, right? Because what I think this is going to be doing, and we can actually read it in the description, is that AI is going to give you recommendations based on your business to generate a tailored set of easily applied configurations in the CRM. So let's just imagine for a second that the onboarding process, so most of the things that we want to configure in HubSpot are going to be done directly by AI. So can you imagine yourself talking only to this screen in HubSpot, like you talked today with ChatGPT, but imagine that we are going to be talking, this is the report generator with AI, right? But imagine that we are going to be only speaking to this screen and describing what we want to do, and then the AI in HubSpot is going to do it all. Let's just imagine this a little bit. But I can think that this could be overwhelming, and this is a post that caught my attention a couple of weeks ago, how some admins are feeling today. So people are starting to feel threatened by AI. They start feeling like AI is gonna take out our jobs. We need to change roles. We need to adapt. So guys, how do you feel today with the use of AI? So let's just go first with Sarah.
Um, I think that is the big question, is kind of how this is affecting the human emotion of job stability, especially in a market where um, operations is already pretty robust and we don't have a lot of job opportunities. Um, but for me personally, my concern doesn't lie necessarily with the technology itself, but rather with the limitations that I've seen business leaders already have an understanding why the need for operations, the complexity behind their data structures, right? Like the limitations that there already cause incorrect decisions to be made that have really terrible outcomes at the other end of the business. The more that you can automate things with the touch of a button, or with a few prompts, the more I think false confidence will be built for people who don't have a depth of insight. And I think that's probably the biggest risk. So, my prediction would be that in the next couple of years, year or two, tons of businesses, especially small to medium size, are going to have less operators as strategists, and they're just going to have more AI running things, and it's going to crash businesses. And then they will realize that the human element of expertise is very, very important. And it'll come back kind of full circle to this being a tool, and not a solution. So that's my thought.
Thanks. So, Erin, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there is going to be, like Sarah said, kind of an upper limit to how useful AI can actually be in your business. And that's going to be based on a lot of factors. And so I think, we're going to see a lot of businesses hit that ceiling and realize, oh, we actually do need that human touch. And so what it's going to ultimately do is put a premium on those more empathy-centered, human-centered tasks. So I think in HubSpot specifically around their AI, the best thing that you can do, also like Sarah said, know the limitations, and make sure that that the tools that you're using are going to give you the outcomes that you want. And you only really know that through testing. So we kind of talked a little bit earlier about, setting up test portals and things like that. It's a little more difficult to do with Breeze. Um, but highly recommend, like the best way to learn is to just start using it and figuring out where those kind of soft spots are, where those gaps are, so that you can proactively fill them. And then, when the business realizes, hey, AI is not the end all be all, you've already kind of established yourself as, filling in those gaps that AI inevitably leads.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that we are all discussing, we're starting to talk about how we can start seeing AI as a friend and not as a threat, and that most of us, I think at least for a second, we start thinking, oh no. But then when we start seeing it as a friend, uh, and I would like to give Martin also the opportunity to discuss this, but I think that we need to start thinking first to create a first AI powered version of what we already do, right? So I think this is the way that we can start thinking, okay, so how we can start seeing it as a friend, right? So Martin, what do you think about this?
Well, I think AI is mostly an accelerator. Like when I'm thinking about the changes bringing into my work, I'm relating to the change that came with internet and smartphones, and that's because I'm old. And for me, it accelerated many things, and I think for many of you as well. Like you will move through the world, always connected. You will work from everywhere. You will work faster, more efficiently. But with that came stress as well. So we need to be careful about that. But in honor of the first idea, I think AI will accelerate the way we move through our work, the way we process emails, content, and essentially how we process information and act upon things, which is good. Only be careful about the stressing out or burning out.
Yeah, I think that's true because people tend to think that we need to be doing more stuff, but sometimes we need to choose more intelligently or more smarter. What are we going to dedicate our time for, right? So I wanted to pick your brains about how is your role going as of super admins going to evolve, but let's just think about the short term. Or, for example, what are you using AI right now for, right? So let's just not imagine in 10 years because we don't know if anything from 10 years now. But how are you using AI, for example, today for your job, for your roles, for your tasks every day? Sarah, you want to go first?
Sure. So combination of things kind of within HubSpot and without of HubSpot. So I am a big proponent for using ChatGPT as a sounding board. Also, if you guys are not super into like syntax and code specifics, I'm not a thing that I'm great at. ChatGPT is wonderful to bounce those off of, or like VLOOKUPs and formulas that I don't know for Excel. Like ChatGPT's got me. I just have to tell it what I'm trying to do, and it'll help me figure the rest out. So there's some of those like levels of efficiency. Or if I get stuck, right, and blocked in a direction I'm going, instead of me having to go do all of the back end research of how the data is structured so I can find a workaround, typically AI can make those connections and at least give me suggestions of where to look, which has also helped speed up some of my problem solving. Within HubSpot, I think anytime that AI is connected to a full feature or a full tool, is really scary to me because again, I think it's going to automate error. Like I think people are gonna not know enough to know that it's wrong and they're just gonna put it in place. And I've seen this happen with a client that I worked with. They were like, well, I just really wanted a workflow that did this very simple thing. And so I put it in the AI, generated the workflow for me. I turned it on and it worked. And I went and checked and I was like, yes. And there's four other steps behind the scenes that need to be happening. Otherwise, you're going to end up in X, Y, and Z problems, right? And if you don't have that concept of how things need to work in the back end, it's really easy to take it at face value and say, oh, this is great. I'm done. Um, I have been enjoying starting to play with AI in the workflow steps that you can now use the Breeze AI in. Don't love that there is a 3,000 call limit on it in a month because didn't realize that the first time I was trying to do a bulk cleanup process with it and hit that real fast. But I think for maintenance level, right? Talking about what we can pivot out of our own responsibility today and give it over to something. I think some of that data maintenance and cleanup absolutely is going to be beneficial to AI because we're so used to having to build huge workflows to do any of that automated data maintenance and check every single possible criteria and then map it over. And this lets you just create one really good prompt and say, here's everything I want you to filter through. Here's how it needs to be mapped. Here's how you're going to do the update to that data. And so that I think will streamline the actual maintenance of data really, really effectively. So again, we'll see where the limits go, but I think that will be a huge immediate win for every admin.
Fantastic. Erin, anything else you want to add? How are you using today AI with HubSpot?
For sure. So I think so. I'm a just crazy AI user. I use arguably too much AI in my life, but within HubSpot specifically, I think there are two main things that you can use AI for that are going to level you up as an admin. So the first one is, and this is just for the savvy user, not your average, like it's for the admin to do, not for the client to like go rogue and do. But if you are working in a tool that has an AI generation option where it'll create the workflow or create the report for you, give it a shot. Like just try your prompt, see what you come up with. It may not be correct and you may need to tweak it some. It may be complete garbage and you end up starting over on your own. But it is valuable to kind of see how HubSpot's AI is solving those problems that you're giving it, because you can learn new things. So I think that's a key thing is, don't rely on it solely out of the box, but do try it, and learn from it when you can. And then the biggest thing that you can do to make people love you as an admin, use those description generators for everything. Like everything you build, give it a like real human readable name and a description and like as much documentation that you can build in using the AI as possible, because that's just going to make it easier for you to not have to hold all of the things in the air at one time. So I think those are two that I use, every time I build something, try it with AI first, see what you get. And then once it is built, use AI to generate at least a description. You can go a step further and have it also generate, documentation, things like that. But I think those are kind of start using those muscles now, and you'll be better for it.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. And I really feel you as an admin in a portal that nobody completes descriptions. Nobody put the description neither for properties, neither for workflows, for anything. And what is this created for? What is the goal? So yeah, I really see this as a quick thing that everyone can start using, and you will totally see value of it. It will be much clearer for everyone in the team that is using the portal. So I really like the suggestion that you did, Erin. And I think that we are all
Descriptions
talking.
that it generates is actually, sorry to interrupt, but the descriptions that it generates is actually really accurate. Even in a workflow where you have like a custom coded action, it'll tell you what the custom coded action is also doing. So like it's not just like a junk description, like it's actually a very valuable description. So highly recommend using that.
Yeah, and especially now that, for example, in workflows, that when we are seeing the workflows general folder, you get to see the description there, so you don't have to go into the workflow to know what's going on in there, right? So, and I think we're all talking about the having the need of knowing the CRM, right? Knowing the data model, because most of the challenges when people start using AI in HubSpot is that, oh no, but I asked the workflow, I asked, I don't know, the content generation to do that, or I wanted to Copilot to update this and it didn't do it. But why that happened? Because if you don't know the data model in the back, you're just asking to do something that doesn't exist in your CRM. So we're talking about the structured data there in the back that we want the CRM or the AI angel to be doing, right? But I know, Martin, that we have discussed in the past, and actually this was really mentioned the other day on the kickoff ecosystem of HubSpot last week, that even though we're all talking most of the time about structured data, there's still a lot of unstructured data in the CRM, right? We're still handling, and I think it was a number like 80% of the information is not structured in the CRM. So we're talking about information in emails, in calls. So how do you think that AI is going to be helping us as admins to process all that?
So this idea that 80% of the information is unstructured, and I come from a very technical background, so I really understand data models and databases and how to create things that relate to each other, entity diagrams, and so on. This idea that 80% of information is unstructured makes me really reflect on this other idea about how we communicate, and where 80% of the things we say are not with words. This non-verbal communication that, people from NLP, and I'm also, studied that as well, and a little bit of hypnosis, but I will tell you about that later. I can see how now computers will be able to access that other 80% of information that was part of the communication of the data that was already happening, but it was not available to us in an easy way. That's going to make computers and us look really smart in the way we, make decisions, and the reaction, the fast reaction that we can have. And I'm a super fan of the tool Fathom, for example. I don't take notes anymore in any meeting with a customer. I can be totally present, observe the nonverbal language of the person in front of me, and be rest assured that I can go and see my notes and even ask questions to the AI processing those notes, which is often like real game changing for me. Like how we talked about licensing HubSpot, for example. It's a question that I don't remember, but the AI remembers for me. I actually very easy pull a list of the things we pointed out that were important for the customer in that sense. So absolutely, we are getting smarter with AI, using it well, of course.
And call me crazy, but while you were talking, I was imagining, can you imagine that at some point we can have a pop-up or a warning in HubSpot saying, hey, based on this conversation with your customer, that the tone was a little bit elevated, and he mentioned these 2 or 3 words, and 80% of churn might appear for this account. Imagine that we can have that, right? And I don't think that we are too far from that.
Absolutely. And there was a feature, but I think it's going to be greatly improved with this AI. There was a feature in the calling part of the tool of HubSpot where you could set up a trigger notification, but it would just look for words in a very literal way. And now I think we're going to be able to tap to the conversation and get from there real buying intents or real potential problems that we need to avoid very fast for things to move forward. I think it's going to change a lot.
So I love it because I think that if we think about AI replacing us in the future, I think that we all agree, and this was not rehearsed before. And I think that it's not about replacing the humans. We are all talking about amplifying what we do, having more reach, being able to do more and more things in a more smart way, in ways that today we don't have the physical time to be doing. Some of us, we don't have the knowledge. We cannot be psychologists to understand NLP, to analyze tone of voices or words that someone is saying in a call. So we are actually gaining a lot of new skills from taking advantage of AI. So how can we be prepared for these changes in these new roles? So I think we are all talking about having a little bit of tech knowledge, but I really love, Sarah, what you said, that right now you can ask ChatGPT anything. You can ask them to do some code. You can ask them to, I don't know, draw a formula to put in a calculation property. So we can really leverage for that, right? But where should we start? Because I think that we can all imagine a lot of great things, but taking the first step is like a little bit of fear, a little bit of I don't know where to start from. So, what would you recommend or advise to anyone that could be hearing us today?
Yeah, I think in terms of being prepared for the changes that are coming, my best advice is always to like take the bull by the horns, right? And like be the architect of the change, instead of having it affect you, use it to the effect that you think makes sense, right? And so um, for me, like most of my clients, I'm right now not necessarily advising like, hey, go and use every single one of these AI features, right? But instead, it's empowering myself to say, okay, these are problems that I'm already solving. Can I solve this problem where the answer used to be, wow, that would be a really manual process that someone would still need to do, or I can do it, but we have to really confine the output to, these 10, because otherwise it gets way too complicated in a workflow. Anywhere where I have limits that can be unblocked by I mean, that only empowers me more. And now I'm delivering more value. Now I'm showing that we can do even more. I'm not replacing myself because I still had to be the one to come up with the idea, figure out how to implement it, understand the implications and make sure that there's the right checks and balances so that stuff doesn't spin out of control, right? Like there's still so much around it that involves my expertise, but because I'm the one bringing it to the table, then I feel much more empowered by it instead of pressure to, oh my God, I got to go use AI because it's the next thing and that's what I'm supposed to do in my career. Um, and even when I've had people approach me with specific use cases, like, hey, could we use AI to do this? Right? Instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, it's a thing I should already know, approach it with curiosity. And that's a lot of the themes that I'm hearing in a lot of sessions today, is that I think those of us who have done well in this industry have this natural curiosity towards problem solving where it's like, oh, I don't know, let's find out. Let's go see what we can do. And if you can keep kind of that playful, let's try, and like Aaron was saying, like Test it. Like what the worst that happens is you go delete that workflow. Like just like play with it. Find out what you can do. Push the limits where you get really interested. And that way it is being built out of interest and curiosity and enablement instead of pressure to perform.
Fantastic, thanks. Erin, a couple of comments before we are being cut out and we leave Martin and
Yeah,
Everton.
for sure. Yeah, I think the best way to be prepared is to just, like we've said, just start practicing. You've got to kind of got to get your hands dirty with it to really understand what you need to know about, the limitations and the gaps that are there. Um, but yeah, it's once you get into it, it becomes easier. It's a muscle that you have to work. And my hack, I say this jokingly, but I'm also very serious. I started coding because there were things that I didn't want to do. And so I was trying to like code my way out of having to do work that I didn't want to do. So kind of think of AI as that. Like if there's something in your day that like you hesitate to do or you're bad about procrastinating, like I do the same with like content for LinkedIn. Um, like if it's something that gives you any kind of like hesitation or pause, see if AI can do it and at least give you a starting point. And just kind of train that muscle of like, well, I don't really want to do this. Could AI do it? And then, kind of go from there.
Love it. We've all been there, so really love it. Martin, last words before we end up today.
I would say structure. And maybe you have seen it. When you structure your prompts with information, with a lot of information, I have done prompts like 23 pages long. The data that you get out of the result that you get out of that prompt is really much better. So what I'm saying with this is back to structured data. Feed the AI with good data and you will get better results. Learn the fundamentals of data modeling and you will be a match. You will be able to take much profit out of the AI if you feed it with good data. So that's what I
So,
say.
thank you, Martin, and thanks again, Sarah and Erin. So now you know, so don't be afraid of the change. Don't be afraid of AI. Just use it at your advantage. We still need you to process and to have your thoughts about what you're getting back from AI. Don't trust it 100% because you can never do that. So just be curious, just keep learning, just keep practicing. Practice makes the master, as we are showing here. So we just hope to hear about your new learnings and new practices with AI soon. So thanks everyone for joining today. Thanks again, Sarah, Erin, Martin. This was a wonderful conversation. And I hope we can keep dreaming about what we can do and we cannot do with HubSpot. And okay, so see you soon again on the main stage. And to all of our listeners, hope to read about you in the Slack channel of Profoundly about your new discoveries with AI. Thanks, everyone.